I think everyone in my everyday life still remembers the legendary song New York by Ja Rule, Jadakiss, and Fat Joe, a song that led to Fat Joe and 50 Cent having a long-standing beef. But what many people don't know is that one line in this song almost got Fat Joe knocked out. In the song, Fat Joe raps the following lines.
True story, I'm bringing the team back. Even Roy Jones was forced to lean back.
The Roy Jones Jr. mentioned by Fat Joe was a professional boxer who remained undefeated for years. He was also friends with Fat Joe, so Fat Joe thought he could just rap this line. But the timing of the song's release couldn't have been worse. Just a few months before the song was released, Roy Jones was knocked out for the first time in his career, so the line was suddenly taken very differently by people. And Roy Jones Jr. didn't like that at all. So he went to see Fat Joe in a New York club and decided to give him a beating because of those lines. But since Fat Joe was once again with hundreds of gangsters, Roy Jones Jr. waited for the moment when Fat Joe was standing alone and grabbed him with a dozen of his friends. Fat Joe knew immediately what was going on and tried to calm him down by saying, "It's all just hip-hop." But a friend of Roy's shouted from the background, "Take him out, champ. Don't take that, champ." Knowing that Roy Jones Jr., as a professional boxer, could knock him out in seconds, Fat Joe fearfully grabbed the hands of Roy Jones and said to him, "Please don't knock me out, champ. I know that wouldn't be a problem for you. But you see the 100 people I'm with. They won't like that at all. And none of them will fight with you, if you know what I mean." Knowing that the whole situation could escalate, and knowing that they were actually friends, Roy Jones Jr. and JayZ settled their differences on the spot and have remained friends to this day.
So it was just hip hop. I said, even at that, it's like, yo, Roy, it's just hip hop, bro.
Before JayZ became famous, he sold drugs in his neighborhood for years. Memphis Bleek, who was with JayZ even before his breakthrough, said in an interview a few years ago that JayZ was a hustler through and through. One day, Jay had to leave town for a few days and asked Memphis Bleek to watch his apartment for him. So Memphis hung out at Jay's house and partied with a few friends and women until they ran out of money. So Memphis called Jay and asked him if he had $100 somewhere in the apartment that he could borrow. Jay told him, "Okay, go into my bedroom and take $100 from my nightstand. $100, that's it. I counted my money." Memphis went into the bedroom, opened the drawer of the nightstand, and saw that it was full of $100 bills. At that moment, Memphis thought to himself, what could be in the other cabinets? According to him, he then saw that every drawer in Jay's bedroom was full of $100, $50, and $20 bills. So he took only one $100 bill, left the bedroom, and thought only one thing. Why didn't I ask for at least $500?
A whole stack of hundreds, just the whole drawer full of hundreds. So I'm like, believe why the you asked for 100?
And since we're talking about JayZ, I have a little story that shows how fiercely Beyonce stands behind her man. JayZ and 50 Cent have been in a kind of competition for years, mostly instigated by 50 Cent. Of course, Beyonce has also noticed this, and she even thought 50 had a real beef with Jay. When 50 Cent and JayZ were at an event in Las Vegas in the mid-2000s, 50 Cent wanted to have a quick word with Jay and went over to him. He didn't actually have any bad intentions, but Beyonce, who was still Jay's girlfriend at the time, saw how 50 came across and immediately jumped down from the windowsill she was sitting on, stood next to JayZ, and, according to 50 Cent's statement, was ready to attack him. This reaction of Beyonce just left 50 Cent standing there speechless, so he looked wordlessly at JayZ, who just grinned. That's what I call a ride or die, isn't it?
She jumped out, she was like, duh, duh, duh. And I'm like, wait, what is you doing? That stuff, that's me and JayZ stuff. This ain't got nothing to do with you, girl.
One of the most iconic songs of the early 90s was definitely Deep Cover by Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, a track that still rocks today. But many don't know the story behind it, because the song was actually planned quite differently. In 1992, Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre had just met and started hanging out in the studio that same year to make music. When Snoop came to the studio, Dr. Dre already had a beat ready, and since he needed a songwriter, he asked Snoop if he could write the lyrics for him. Snoop agreed, of course, and Dre just gave him the first rap lines and told him that the song would be on a movie soundtrack. Then Dre packed his things and went to the gym, without Snoop even knowing what the movie was about. So Snoop wrote the first verse, until Suge Knight called and told him that the movie was about an undercover cop. And since Snoop Dogg had just gotten out of jail for selling drugs to an undercover cop, the song was perfect for him. When Dre came back from the gym a little later and heard what Snoop Dogg had conjured up, Dre also thought that the song was perfect for Snoop Dogg. So he wanted to give the song to Snoop Dogg and got him to write 2 more verses, which Snoop was then supposed to rap alone. And so the originally planned solo song by Dre became a solo song by Snoop Dogg. But that was too much pressure for Snoop, which is why he persuaded Dre to at least take on the first verse. And so today we hear both of them on the song.
Write the second verse, then the third verse. How about this when I start getting vocal? How about we do it together?
The year was 2003. YouTuber Logan Paul, who was just 18 years old at the time, had just had his first YouTube hype and was discovered by an agency called Studio 71 and signed up shortly thereafter. As a result, Logan was regularly in Los Angeles, where the agency was based. One day, Logan and his manager were having a meeting in the agency's conference room when they suddenly heard loud screams from outside. So they went to the door, opened it a crack, and saw a smaller man and a man 2 heads taller shouting at the CEO of Studio 71. The tall man grabbed the CEO by the collar and shook him while the short man shouted, "Where the hell is my money?" Logan's manager then slowly closed the door and tried to remain inconspicuous. Then Logan Paul asked who these 2 men were, and the manager replied that they were Cat Williams and Suge Knight. So that's how Logan Paul first heard about Suge Knight. And although there are many other, even more outrageous stories about Suge, this story perfectly illustrates why he was feared by all of Hollywood back in the day.
He's like, that's Suge Knight and Cat Williams. And I'm like, who's Suge Knight? And that's when I got the brief on who this dude is.
And that's it for today's stories from the Sidetrack. If you have any stories you'd like me to be sure to mention in the future, just drop them in the comments. Stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Get out of it.